Very much indeed. Mr. Speaker, in 2005, I remember being at a meeting in Blackball with the member who's just spoken prior to the election there, and I said that I had written to the National Spokesperson on Finance, Mr. John Key, and proposed, Mr. Speaker, I proposed that Solid Energy shares be made available for West Coasters to buy. The member opposite will probably remember the meeting. That was the one when the Blackball people told him they were going to vote him out, and indeed they did. Affinity, well, it didn't take long. Oh no, you're quite right. You only lost 5,500 votes that time. You lost to 3,800 the next time. The West Coasters have an affinity with mining, and I know they don't like mining on that side of the House. I know they don't like success, and the problem, of course, for Solid Energy, as far as the Labor government goes, is that not only does it do mining, but it does it successfully. $600 million, I think, comes from the Stockton Plateau, $600 million, and indeed community sponsors to a great extent. I was delighted, Mr. Speaker, when I heard the Prime Minister say that he was looking at the proposal of a partial sell-down in Solid Energy, Meridian, Genesis and Mighty River Power. Mixed ownership, partial sell-down, 51% guaranteed government investment. It's a win-win-win. It wins for the families who can invest in proven companies. What a wonderful opportunity. And why should New Zealanders be denied that opportunity? Why should West Coasters be denied that opportunity? The companies get fresh capital, jobs, security, everything gets better. And the government reinvests in new assets, schools and hospitals, and it's going to be health that determines the outcome of the election on the West Coast. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with those things, Mr. Speaker? What is it that Labor has a problem with? Why the panic headlines? It was even in the paper, I think, today, from the member opposite, the List member, who said, oh, they're going to sell Landcorp. When will he learn that people don't like to be panicked? And indeed, the very people that he's trying to impress will bite him where it hurts through that constant crying wolf. But they don't like mining and they don't like success. Mr. Goff says he wants the government to keep the profits. Mr. Goff actually would probably like the government to keep everything. They have not changed. What was it they used to say? The old socialist cry, the systems of production, transport, distribution and communication. They haven't changed at all. And they certainly would love to keep all of that. But we say, on this side of the House, why not let hard-working Kiwis reap the benefit from Kiwi companies? More capital, more assets. Well, I'm glad to report, Mr. Speaker, from the work we've done, we find that that message has gone down well on the coast, in spite of Labor saying that we would sell Landcorp and other things. Again, they need to learn that constantly striving to cause panic, and there have been a number of instances in the last few months, will only bring criticism from those he tries to alarm. There is no risk of overseas ownership. The other bogey they put up, 51% government shareholding is guaranteed. Kiwi investors will have a preference, be they individuals or through KiwiSaver. Air New Zealand, Mr. Speaker, has done well with mixed ownership. It's done well and will continue to do well. Another factor that has to be taken into account, and this is going to be the clear difference between this side of the House and that side of the House. It has been mentioned by a number of speakers tonight, and I make no apology for repeating it. Debt. Debt. Debt, debt. There are clear differences between National and Labor. Goff, rushing to cause panic, yet promises $5 billion spends. $5 billion promises. This will be a disastrous policy, Mr. Speaker. These practices are not reflected by business in New Zealand. They're not reflected by families in New Zealand. Labour want us to be like Portugal, like Ireland, like Spain, and like Greece. Mr. Speaker, we need to get the books in order, and it's policies from this side of the House that will do it. I think Labour's policy of promising more spending is irresponsible. It's not designed for economic good. It's not designed for the country's good. What, then, is it designed for? It's the same stuff I've heard from successive Labour leaders from rolling onwards. It's what they trot out when they are facing electoral disaster. And that's what they'll be facing this time if they persist with this program. If you don't believe me, have a look at Sir Wallace Rawlings' pre-election speech in 1975. Goodness me, it was so full of promises that couldn't be paid up. Some of them were highly amusing. And here we go again. Labour pursuing a political strategy which takes away our economic future and prosperity for our children for a desperate grab for power by a leader with basically an old team who know that this is their last chance as individuals. Their last chance as individuals. It's a strategy which takes a risk with our future simply to secure an electorate respite for Labour. So what is the risk? What is the risk? A major risk of not bringing our debt under control is the risk of a credit downgrade from international credit rating agencies. Standards & Poor's has New Zealand on a negative outlook as we speak. The only countries with the worst foreign debt are Spain, Portugal, Ireland and Greece. These are not the economies we should be comparing ourselves to. So foreign debt, negative outlook and international credit ratings may not be a concept most people will be familiar with. And this is what Labour, frankly, is depending on. But what they do know, though, is the very real risk to personal financial situations. With a credit downgrade, interest rates rise, increasing the cost of mortgages, and that will hit everybody. Everyone. Starting a business becomes harder. And don't forget, it's business that creates jobs. I think of the young couple in Westport, Mr. Speaker, who've scrimped and saved for a deposit for their first house. A Labour-inspired credit downgrade might be what puts it out of reach. The solo mum in Motueka with a great business idea. A Labour-inspired credit downgrade could be what makes it too hard to get a business loan. An employer in a small business in Greymouth who would face rising interest costs. A Labour-inspired credit downgrade could mean downgrading his business, redundancy for some of his staff. Mr. Speaker, these are not complex economic issues. They are basic, real situations for real people around the country. There are people who need economic leadership, which they'll get from this side of the House, not the prospect of a Labour government taking risks with everybody else's future to try to secure their own. These are the risks that are taken by a government that embarks on a program of increasing debt at this crucial stage. No wonder you're ashamed over there. These are the risks that Phil Goff wants to take. These are the risks that the national government will not take. What New Zealand needs is sound financial leadership and management. That's what they are getting from John Key and Bill English. They are charting the path, and for the last 2 years they've provided the economic leadership that this country has benefited from, and they will continue on doing that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.